My name is Jeremy MacDonald, and I'm a scuba diver. Most divers prefer tropical getaways, but I like looking for treasure in the Arctic. I live just below the Arctic Circle in a town called Yellowknife, where the winter temperatures drop below -40. People think we're kind of nuts to be jumping in the lake in the middle of January. Wedding rings, phones, skidoos, sunken cars, trucks, lost guns, historical artifacts. You never know what you're going to find in the dive. One of the best things about doing this up here in the north is I have great, amazing friends who love to come along for the diving as well. My name is Jeremy MacDonald, and this is Shit I Found Diving in Yellowknife. It's late December, and we've been called out for a vehicle recovery at Prosperous Lake. So this big dive, it's really one of the first big contracts that we've had. There were these tourists who were new to town, and they were ripping across the lake, and they had no idea what they were getting into. So they hit an area of thin ice, and 3 of them crashed through all at the same time. I mean, within seconds of each other, these guys are going from having a good time to flailing in the water.
Do you see anything?
Yeah, I'm on the skidoo.
Oh, you are on it.
Jesus, there's a car here.
There's a car?
The moment of panic in that family must have been atrocious. Realizing they're suddenly going under, what do we do now?
That's the truck.
I'm standing on an SUV.
Can you imagine how nervous you've got to be? Heart pumping, am I going under? Am I going to be able to get out? And who goes out first? Husband, wife, kids? My God, with the kids out alone, they fall under the ice. Thank God this family's okay.
All right, so sled right here,
About how deep?
6 feet.
Okay.
I would want to have some snorkel or some scuba gear for that one.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have been contracted to get the skidoos out of the water for environmental reasons. The longer they sit there, the greater the chances the oil or fuel are for leaking out into the environment. The ice is too thin to drive out a tow truck, so we're working with an air crew to lift the skidoos out of the water and take them back to town.
What we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you these.
Okay.
They're basically called an endless strap.
Yep.
And just go around the A-arms.
Okay.
Basically, just shoot it through,
Yep.
around the A-arm, come like that.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna come in and it's gonna be hanging right above you or whatever, or just lay the straps on the ice, come up and it's just a twist, push, just like a mountain climbing clevis.
Okay.
Twist, and like that. And I'll watch them when you give me a thumbs up or a hands up.
Okay.
Or someone could go over there, Ian,
As
we have
soon
a
as it's
handheld.
connected, I'm getting the hell
Oh
out
yeah,
of Dodge.
yeah.
Not supposed to break.
I was expecting a break. Just want it looped the same way?
Yeah, just loop it through.
In the hole, I'm worried about all the things that could possibly go wrong. That sling has a 100-pound weight on the end of it. That weight is swinging around like a pendulum. If that hits me in the head, I'm going to be knocked out and fall under the ice and I'm going to drown. Another thing that could go wrong, if the winds gust, lift up the helicopter while the skidoo is attached to it, I could get pinched between the skidoo and the ice, crushing me. Then I'm going to fall under the water and drown. Once the skidoo comes out of the hole, if the wind gusts again, that skidoo is going to be whipping around back and forth with no way to stop it. I could get hit by a flying skidoo. That's another thing that could possibly go wrong. When all of a sudden I realize that 300 pounds of metal are flying right towards me. Man, that was close. These helicopters can lift up to 2,000 pounds of cargo, so it is perfect for the skidoo. But there's still a car under the ice and is too heavy for an air rescue, and the ice is still too thin to drive out a recovery vehicle. 3 weeks of cold Arctic temperatures have made the ice reach a thickness where we can safely drive a tow truck across the frozen lake. So I'm going to snowshoe out take a look at the site and just get a good feel for what changes have happened, and that's going to help us develop the plan for when we come diving next weekend. There's probably a number of reasons why the ice is super thin right now. This is a very narrow area, so any little current that is coming down this way, as it gets pinched in, it's going to speed up, and that current working on the bottom of the ice is actually going to keep it from getting any kind of thickness or actually freezing up more. Yeah, so even right close to shore, this ice is only about 2 inches thick here. And yeah, this is all just changing environment right here. This is insane. I head back to town and coordinate a meeting with my dive team, my 3 friends, Eric, Newman, and Fred. We meet up before sunrise a week later to execute the recovery. The guys are on their way. They'll be here any minute, and we're gonna pack up quick and hit the road fast.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey Eric, how you doing?
Nothing too bad, and you?
Doing good.
What's up, ugly?
Newman.
Jeremy.
All right, guys, thanks for coming on short notice. So what's going on here is we're recovering a minivan that's gone in at Prosperous Lake. Local conditions right now, it's solid ice up until this narrow area. The ice there is 1 inch thick or less. So additional risk considerations is when he starts towing, because of the direction of the van, he's going to be towing from where we're going to be situated. That van at some point is going to snap around or be dragged around and start coming towards the shore. So we want to be cognizant at all times of what they're towing, what they're doing, and any tension on that line, and avoid that. There's a series of rocks and boulders here. So I'm not sure what Johnny's plan is to get it up out of the water and over the boulders. So there is an environmental concern.
They puncture a tank.
They puncture the fuel tank on this thing because that thing's been in the water, could have been leaking the entire time. So they do have an environmental response kit that they're going to be taking out.
Perfect.
That's not our job. That's his responsibility to sort those ones out. So our job is simple, boys. We jump in, connect cable, get out of the way, and they're taking over all the rest.
So I've got one question. Do we know what the bottom is under that van? Is it rock? Is it mud? Because if it's mud, it's going to have sunk in there, and you're going to have to dig to the wheel wells to be able to get the hooks on.
Yeah. What we're looking at for connections, and I was going to be the one mainly doing the connection. So in terms of where the tire connects to a vehicle, there's a control arm that connects to the tire. So what we're going to do is wrap cable around and above the tire. And then the nature of the terrain there, so if I do kind of a side view of the lake here, it was pretty much flat.
Okay.
So when he starts towing up, he's actually going to have the tow cable lifting the van out. So the weather forecast today, it's -19 when we're going to be diving.
Okay.
And we're going to have a wind chill out in the area up to -47.
Well, that's a little bit chilly.
Yeah. Well, this is going to separate the men from the boys.
I find the most unique thing about diving up here, obviously, is it's so extreme from anywhere else. I spent the last 20 years in Victoria, BC, so the water there is cold. It's like, 5-6 degrees, which gets you used to the cold diving and having all the gear and the gloves and the hoods and everything. Up here, obviously, it's redefines cold, so we go from 6 degrees to -4 or so in the water, and then obviously it's much, much colder outside.
Flashlights, dive knife.
Making some coin off a dive? Yeah, it's always nice to have. It goes towards either new gear or, another trip down south to the Caribbean where there's warmer water to dive in.
We catch a beautiful northern sunrise as we make our way out to Prosperous Lake for the vehicle recovery. The forecast says it will go up to -19, but it is currently -35 out at dawn. So we hustle to set up a camp. All right, so from the pictures there, guys, what the van is straight line to those 2 trees that are sticking out on the crest. So I suspect they're going to want to set up the tow truck around here. So maybe we could set up tent and camp here, get ourselves situated. We can start getting ready.
icicles on my eyelashes.
Yes, you do.
Those aren't some of that new frosting? You didn't go to the spa to get those done?
A spa would have done it evenly.
Try to do it himself.
Yeah. Gotta save money.
Being military, we get out to the dive site a little too early. Minus 32. So we make a pot of tea and do our best to stay warm while we wait. You know, a watch pot never boils.
Yeah.
So right now, Johnny showed up with his tow truck. He's getting configured to set up an A-frame, which will help lift the van up and out of the water because there's a lot of rocks that they don't want to be dragging that across. The goal is to minimize the environmental impact by actually lifting the van straight up out of the water as opposed to dragging it across the bottom.
If we have to, I do have longer trucks.
Those look pretty small. What's the capacity on these ones?
The capacity on these are like 6,200 pounds a piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, John, is we'll get you to get the chainsaws and all the stuff sorted out. Once it becomes a dive op, I'm taking over the site. Once I'm out of the water, it goes back to your site. And we'll do a safety briefing for everyone before we go anywhere in. Since scouting the lake last weekend, conditions on the ice have changed again. The ice is now 3 inches thick, and Johnny needs a chainsaw to get through the ice to search for the sunken vehicle. I've shown them where the minivan is in the water. What they're doing now is cutting a path through the ice, so they'll have a direct line from the tow truck right back to where the minivan is. So we're not going to have any environmental concerns about crashing through ice. It's also going to give us a safe venue where we can get to the truck for scuba diving. While they cut an opening for us to safely dive, the crew and I suit up in our warming tent, and right off the bat, things start going wrong. So right now, my regulator is not serviceable due to temperature, so I've swapped out for the backup regulators from Eric, so I'm setting it up just to give it another test and make sure we can continue the dive safely. Gear issues can be expected when the air temperature is this cold, but there's no turning back now. All right, boys, let's do this.
This is a very cold environment to dive in. The temperature today with the wind in the minus 40s. The ice was rebuilding so fast, we had to make sure we were keeping everything clear before the divers went through to make sure nothing would seal back over them.
It's a little chilly. It's still minus 32. We've got a bit of a wind coming. The wind's picked up, so wind chill's probably minus 45, minus 50 right now.
You better hurry up and get your gear underwater. Those tanks aren't rated for extreme cold.
The regulator allows air from the tank, which is being stored at 3,000 psi, to be converted to a breathable pressure. When the regulator is frozen open, there's no safe way to breathe underwater. It seems like the moisture from our breath is creating condensation inside the air regulator. Mixed with the frigid air, it's causing the regulator to freeze open. This makes it impossible for us to regulate the amount of airflow, making it dangerous to scuba dive.
You're in free flow. Your regulator is frozen.
So we're at the water and Jeremy's regulator starts gushing. First thought is close this right now, make sure everything's underwater where it's got a chance to thaw out. Jeremy, lie back in the water. See if it thaws it out. Unfortunately, it was freezing so fast, had to just go in. I've always got spare gloves in case of emergencies, 3 full pairs, used them all, and yet I managed to close it, make sure we had a chance of saving the dive.
All of my kit froze open, so I had a free flow situation where all my air was venting out of my second stage of my regulator. So for me, that shuts me down for a safety reason. I put my kit into the truck. We've got it heated up and warming up right now. That should get rid of the ice that's on top. But to keep things going, we're going to switch. So our backup diver is going in, and now I'm going to be shore support. So we've just changed roles, and we're keeping on with the job. Now, for this, it's only 6 feet deep. The guys are right there. You can reach down and grab them if we have an issue. And we have also Eric's going to suit up as well. So we're just rotating our roles right now. By the time they're ready to jump in, my stuff should be thawed out and I'll have it back and ready to go.
Right off the bat, I realized Chris has a free flow. It's frozen open and high pressure air is gushing out. And damn it, in the time it takes Chris's regulator to thaw out, being out in the cold air causes Fred's regulator to freeze over.
Newman's down. Newman tries to submerge, but he's still having troubles controlling the airflow in his tank. When he comes back to the surface, I begin to wonder if we just have to cancel the dive. So I pull him back to the safety of the ice. By this point, all of our dive gear seems to have been compromised by the frigid temperatures, and we are all getting really cold.
Once you're underwater, heat just keeps being sucked out of your body much faster than at the surface. We started seeing some white spots both on Jeremy and on Fred. That's never a good sign. At that point, the best thing to do was to pull the dive and see if there was another way of recovering things.
Diving is beautiful. It's always awesome. Any day with a dive is an awesome day. Even in weather like this where it's minus 30 something, still an awesome dive. You know, the forecast for today was supposed to be about minus 19. It's still minus 32, minus 33. That's a huge difference in terms of diving gear, and it's just too freaking cold. So we had to come up with a backup plan and just bash through with what we had. The original plan was that we were going to get underneath the van and wrap chains around the tires. But just because we weren't able to get down the way we wanted to, Johnny came up with a new plan, which is actually put a chain through the roof of the car, basically through the driver's window and the passenger's window. So I'm on the roof, and the problem is they had told us that both of the windows were rolled down when the family evacuated, when they crashed through, but they weren't. The passenger side window was rolled up. So I am laying on the roof of the truck with a sledgehammer trying to bash the window open underwater. And there's no way you can get the right momentum to be able to do that. Like, you can't swing the hammer. So I'm there floating and I'm trying to get the hammer going, and the force of me pushing the hammer is actually pushing me away from the truck, and every time I'm contacting the window, it's not smashing at all. So I had to get some good leverage in there to actually break the window. Got it. Where's the chain? All right, our job is done. Now it's up to Johnny's team to get the vehicle out as safely as possible.
Normally you don't dive in this cold temperature, but to save the environment, we had to do this. Much more damage than we actually wanted to cause the vehicle, but it was better a shattered window than a leaking oil pan.
You know what? Sometimes the plan doesn't survive first contact with the enemy. This time the enemy is the weather. But ultimately we did get the truck connected. We did help Johnny get it out of the water. So he's agreed that, yeah, we're still getting paid exactly what we agreed upon. Hey man, thanks for giving me the help.
I still need you anyways.
Yeah.
I couldn't get it through on my own. So.
We went in the water, he got the truck out, so we're gold. We pack up the gear, glad to be out of the water. There's just one last thing to do before we head back to town. Come here! We've summed up. Johnny was happy. Got it out. We didn't get it out the way we wanted it to, but still got it out, so it's a successful job.
At minus 40 and above, it's pretty damn good that we managed to do it this way anyway.
Yeah, no surprise the gear was freezing up. So lesson learned, we won't be doing that one again, but a successful dive's a good dive. So hey, you know what? There's been that van, at least 3 skidoos that have gone through here. So let's put up some tape. We'll just mark it off as a warning to other people that all that open ice is there.
Sounds good.
Hey, let that be a warning to everyone else. You've been warned. So we're gonna head back to town, put the gear in the garage, try and warm up a bit, maybe have some hot chocolate, and who knows what the next diving adventure in the north is gonna be. Autobots, roll out!